In this practice, we're going to focus on releasing tension from our hips. Some of us have been doing a lot of sitting lately, myself included, and we will find ourselves getting tight in the hip joints and all in the musculature around those hip joints. So we're going to focus on releasing that tension and the congestion that we might experience through the hamstrings, through the quadriceps, through the gluteal muscles, and even that lower back region. And so for today's practice, you will need a few accessories, one of them being some sort of blanket or maybe a couple of towels that you can roll up into a bolster looking formation like this or like this. Here I have two towels rolled up together to create some height and some girth. And here I have a yoga blanket. So something like that. And then also you could use a block or cushion. I have a meditation cushion here that I might use. And then finally, a tennis ball. I have two tennis balls here, but one will suffice. You could probably be fine with just having one. So go ahead and gather up your accessories, your supplies, and then we'll get started. So we'll start our hip releasing practice lying on our backs. But before you lie down, make sure you have a couple of your props within arm's reach. One of those will be either a block or a cushion or pillow or maybe even a blanket or towels. And then another is one of your tennis balls. So have that within arm's reach. And then go ahead and let's come lying on our backs. And once you get down there, maybe just start off by bringing your knees into your chest and giving yourself a little hug to flatten out that back, maybe a little gentle rocking or little circles to feel the flattening around the sacral region as well. And after a couple breaths of that, go ahead and bring those feet back down. And let's take the feet slightly wide and bring the knees to touch. So depending on how comfortable this internal rotation of your hips is, that will dictate how far out you bring your feet. So if your hips are comfortable rotating internally, you might take your knees a little or your feet a little wider and let your knees relax against each other like that. But if that's not comfortable, then you just don't take your feet out as far and there'll be less rotation here in your hips. Regardless of how your feet are positioned, whether they're wider or less wide, what you'll notice once you do that and come into this pose called Constructive Rest, settling those knees against each other, just bring awareness to your lower back and the sacral region in particular, because this will create a little space or a little broadening at the sacrum. So just allow your hips, your sacral region, your lower back region to settle here for a moment. Relax the feet into the ground. Feel the weight of your legs gently resting against each other. And you can even have your arms by your side there, or maybe out in a T, whatever feels good to you. And maybe close your eyes and just take a few nice big breaths here. Nice big breath in and out. Letting go. So as you take these nice big breaths, releasing the weight of your body into the floor, allowing that area around your sacrum to soften and broaden, I invite you to just set an intention for your practice. Part of CHITTA Yoga is that it is very intentional, and I invite all my students when we do a CHITTA Yoga practice to perhaps actually set a particular intention if that feels appropriate. So our theme is releasing the hips, so certainly that is our intention, that's our focus. But if there's something in particular that you want to feel or receive from this practice, perhaps a sense of ease or freedom or flexibility or whatever it might be, just something else that you feel you would like to use as an intention, creating space in the body. Go ahead and take this last moment or so to set that intention. with this last big breath here. And then gently take your knees apart so the feet are wide, and we will begin with just a little bit of undulation. So with this movement, this is where we're going to, before we start the movement, we're going to grab our block or our cushion or towel or whatever we're using, and let's slowly bring the knees over to the left. So I've got my block out to the left, and I'm going to rest my left leg, left thigh, left knee, wherever it feels comfortable on the block. You could have your cushion, towel, whatever else you might be using. I'm going to bring my arms wide so you're able to see my legs more easily. And so as I bring both knees over to the left leg rests on the block and the right leg just hangs there, we're going to begin to do a little undulating movement. But for the time being, let's just take a few breaths here and just let that left leg rest into the block or the support, and let that right hip hang a little bit. So we'll take a couple more nice big breaths. Each big breath, work with your intention that you set, and breathe that intention especially into this right hip, right thigh, right leg. One more nice big breath. And then with that next breath, slowly bring those knees up, setting them wide again, and take the block to the other side or the cushion to the other side, and drop the knees over to that other side, setting it up so that you are able to rest the right leg completely and let that left leg hang now. And now we're breathing nice, big, full breaths into the left thigh, left hip. I might have said right, but I meant left. You know what I meant. Again, breathing your intention into the left side, that left hip, left thigh, leg region, maybe even lower back region, depending on what you're feeling here. One more big breath here. Beautiful. And now slowly bring it back up. So you might want to move that block away, and we're going to do a little movement now with that same type of shape that we just made. So we'll move first that left leg off to the left, and as we slowly and consciously move that leg, notice when the weight of that leg causes the right leg to also drop over to that left. Now we're going to keep the legs right where they are, or at least the left leg, we're going to keep it right where it is, and we're going to move just that right knee up, bring that right leg up, very slow, conscious movement. And notice at what point the activity of the right leg and the weight of that right leg pulls the left leg up, and then allow both legs to drop over to the right. And then we're going to continue that. So now the left leg comes up, and we're only engaging the left leg, but at some point, the activity of the left leg, the weight of that left leg pulls that right leg up, and then we let both drop to the left. So we're going to continue to do that, and just be really mindful of this movement, this conscious movement, meaning we're doing it really slow, really consciously. We're choosing to move one leg at a time, and it's the engagement and the momentum of that one leg that pulls the other leg over to the side that we're moving to. So just see if you can play with this conscious movement a couple more times, and notice how this feels through the legs, through the hips, through the thighs. Notice where you might be engaging that other leg, the one that we're trying to just draw up naturally without engagement, and see if you can release that engagement and only work with the leg that is leading the movement. So one more time. And now this time, wherever you are, your top leg is going to come up, and then the other leg will come up as well. And then we're going to bring those feet closer together in line with the hips. And then we're going to let both knees go out to the side, bring those feet to touch, and come into a supine bound angle. So here, you may want to grab 2 blocks if you have 2, or maybe a block and a cushion, or 2 cushions, and support both legs, both thighs. So I'm actually going to grab one of my towels on one side and the block on the other side. And then just support both legs here in your supine bound angle. If you feel like you need to settle the sacrum again, maybe do a little side to side rocking to resettle the sacrum, nice and flat, comfortable. And then from this position, take a few breaths to really settle the weight of the legs, and then reach for your one tennis ball. So once you feel your legs settling into this bound angle, upper body is also relaxed. Let's take one of the tennis balls and I'm going to go to the right hip first, and bring the tennis ball right to the midline or the center of that right hip joint, right hip crease. So I'm just going to rest. I'm going to bring the ball there, and I'm just going to bring my palm over the ball and rest my hand into the ball, and take a couple of deep breaths, and not really aggressively pushing into the hip joint. You don't want to aggressively push. What I'm kind of doing is just letting the weight of the ball sink. Just naturally sink with the weight of my hand without forcefulness or aggression. And then breathe a couple of big breaths right into that spot, the center of the hip joint. This is a marma point, and we're just accessing the marma point through this shape, but also through that added gentle pressure of the ball on the point. So 2 more breaths. Maybe we breathe our intention into that spot as well, especially if the intention was something like ease or spaciousness or opening or release. Wonderful. And then we'll switch, and we'll bring the ball over to the other side. And right at the midpoint there of the hip crease of the hip joint, just plant the palm over top and rest the weight of your hand into the ball, and let the ball now sink into that spot, that particular marma point on the other side. Breathing into that. Breathing into it with our intention. Or maybe just breathing into it and visualizing whatever it is we're wishing to create in that space. The ease, the opening, the release. And then with that next breath, take that ball off to the side once again. And then maybe use your hands to slowly bring those knees up. So bring both knees up, and you can move your props again to the side one more time. Wonderful. Let's take those legs straight now and give those legs a nice stretch. Maybe arms up above as well if that feels good, and give yourself a full body stretch. Maybe a little side to side movement just to get a little movement into the body here. Wonderful. Big breath here with this full body stretch. And then let it go. And we're going to do a little opening of the sides of the thighs and the hips here. So we're going to do a banana pose. So let's take the left foot out to the left side, maybe just about an inch, maybe 2 inches, depending on your level of flexibility along the sides of your hips. And then the right heel will hook over top the left ankle. And I went a little too far out because that feels like a little too much. So we want to feel that stretch, and maybe a little bit of a challenge, maybe even in that stretch, or slight discomfort in that stretch along the outside of that right leg into the right hip, especially the right side of the hip. But it shouldn't feel painful at all. We never want to feel pain. We only want to go to that first place of resistance, and then settling the weight of the leg. So if you feel like the sacral area feels like it got a little congested by doing that, just kind of shimmy the hips a little bit side to side, create a little space around the sacrum, and then settle the weight down again through the legs. Now your left arm could either be by your side, it could be out, it could even be up. In fact, both arms could be up above your head. So decide where you want to relax that left arm. The right arm, I will suggest bringing above your head, and you might just be right here in this position and focus on lower body. So as that opens up for you, like for me, I went a little too far originally, but now that has opened up for me. So I might unhook my foot and go just a teeny bit further to the left, and then hook it up again, just to go a little bit further. So you might choose to do the same thing, or you might be perfectly fine where you are. The other option is you could also get the other upper body, involved. So if you choose, you could shimmy the shoulders a little bit to the left and then get the upper body involved and maybe rock on your hips a little bit again to make sure that there's plenty of space around the sacrum. And then come into kind of a full banana shape here. Or you could have just stayed neutral with your shoulders and just focused on the lower body. So there's an option there, whichever feels good to you. A couple of nice big breaths as we hold this shape. So here's where the therapeutic aspect of Chitta Yoga comes in, where we are holding a pose, holding a shape, and breathing into the sensation of whatever we feel, focusing on the areas of sensation and breathing into them. So one of the things I could do with my left hand is I could bring my left hand to any part of the body where that feeling of touch, where the healing touch of my left hand might be helpful. And that could be anywhere. It could be at one of my hips, my hip joints. It could maybe even be at your belly or your solar plexus, or maybe your heart space. Or maybe you prefer to not lay your hands on your body and just allow your left arm to rest at your side. So again, lots of options here, even in this therapeutic banana shape. And we'll hold this for another handful of breaths. Each breath helping you to ease the body, release any tension, soften sensation. Again, you could breathe your intention into wherever your body may be calling for you to take that intention. One more nice big breath here. And then as you release that breath, slowly bring your right arm down from wherever it was. Slowly unhook that right leg. Shimmy your shoulders and your heels back to center. Recenter your hips or resettle your hips if you need to as well. And then we'll do the other side. So again, we'll move that right foot this time, maybe an inch, maybe two, maybe not even that much. So again, decide on what feels good, that first place of resistance for your left hip, left side, lateral side of the leg there. And then just hang here for a moment before we continue, because after a few breaths here, you may be able to go a little further with that lower body over to the right. Maybe not, but maybe. And you may also want to add the shimmy of the shoulders over to the right. So after a few breaths, see what would feel good to you. See if it would feel good to take that right foot a little bit further. Again, any kind of gentle rocking in the hips will help create space at the sacrum if you need it. Settling the hips into the floor, settling the heels downward. And then, of course, if you wanted to add the upper body, you could. And I invite you to take the left arm up to anywhere. It doesn't have to be reaching high above your head. It could be somewhere more over to the side if that feels better, to the left shoulder. And the right arm is completely neutral and relaxed. So the right arm could be at your side. It could be above your head as well, wherever that right arm feels good. Or again, we could be using the right hand to bring some sort of healing, some healing touch to the body, perhaps to one of the hips. Again, perhaps to other places on the body. So you decide what would feel good, and then settle into that shape. Taking your breath into the body, wherever the body may be calling for it. Breathing intention into the body. Working this therapeutic pose in a way that works best for us today, at this time. And if the mind wanders, we bring it back to the body. And that's why it's nice to work with intention, or it's nice to work with healing touch, because it helps keep the mind in this moment. Since the physical aspect of this pose, really, there is no physical aspect, I guess, once we get into the pose and once we settle. We're not actually moving, and we're not having to really work hard in this pose because it's more of a therapeutic pose. The mind can tend to wander. So by instead working with intention and focusing on breathing our intention into the body, or working with a healing touch and bringing our awareness to the hand and the healing touch of our hand, or maybe a combination of both, those are great ways to stay present in our therapeutic pose. So we'll take one more breath here. And then gently bringing the left arm back alongside, shimmying the shoulders back, releasing that left heel, and gently bringing both feet up. Maybe again we recenter those hips if we need to. And let's bring those knees in. Let's flatten the back one more time before we go on to the next thing. Awesome. So let's bring those feet back down, and we're going to keep those feet on the mat with the knees bent, and align the feet with your knees, with your hip centers. And we'll keep that left foot on the mat. We'll bring the right knee in and just hug the right knee here for a moment, flattening out that right side for a moment. And while you do that, lift the toes of your left foot and feel the four corners or the tripod points of your left foot sinking into the floor, grounding you here through that left foot. Bring those toes back down and just let the weight of that left foot settle into the mat. That's going to be your anchor, your grounding foot. And then we'll straighten out that right leg up to the sky, and we'll flex the foot as if we're making a footprint. We're going to press the foot up towards the sky as if we're making a footprint. So we're bringing awareness to the ball of the big toe, the pinky toe, and to the center back of the heel, and pressing up through those points. Those are what I like to call the tripod points of the foot. Now, once we do that, now we're going to intentionally press the right hip into the floor. So while you're pressing up through the right foot, the right hip presses down. And you might choose to just gently hold your knee here, not forcefully, but just softly hold the knee so that you don't push into the knee crease. We don't want to do that. We want to keep it soft at the knee. So the force is upward through the foot and downward through the hip. And the knee is as relaxed as possible, although you're going to feel the stretch there for sure. But the main thing is that we don't want to push the knee forward into the hip, into the knee crease, I should say. So we can just relax that knee as much as we can as we press up and press down through that right leg, holding the knee, offering it some healing. And then with that next breath, just relax the leg. So the leg is still up, but you're just going to relax the effort you are making of pressing the foot up and pushing the hip down. And while it's relaxed, we're just going to give our knee some love. So just take both hands and just some circular movements, the knee crease as well as the knee cap, and then along the side. Again, working with the healing aspect of Chitta Yoga, where we use our hands to offer our body some softening, some healing, some nurturing. And just holding the knee here for a breath or two, perhaps breathing your intention, if it feels appropriate, into your knee. And then gently bend the knee and bring that right foot onto the left thigh into a figure four formation. And we're just going to toggle the right knee forward and back a few times, and then bring that knee in line with the heel. And once again, this is where you're going to grab a block, a cushion, a towel, whatever, and we're going to put it over to the left side, and we're going to take this formation, and we're going to take the formation over on top of that support, whatever it is. And see if you can bring the foot flat on your block or your cushion or whatever you're using there. And once it's flat there, take the left hand and bring the left hand below the knee cap, below the knee, more on the thigh, and then just gently press it away from you. So see if you can keep the foot flat. Don't let the toes lift or the outer edge of that foot lift. Try to keep the foot flat, but at the same time, gently press the knee away from you and just find that edge.
Find that edge, breathe into it. See if you can create some ease there as you make the effort through the arm. Let the leg be as relaxed as possible. Notice if you're resisting through your thigh muscles, the press of the hand. And then take the right hand and the heel of the hand right at your hip crease, and just gently let the weight of the right hand sink or press into the right hip crease. It's almost like you're creating a little space there at your hip joint, at your hip crease. Nothing aggressive. It's almost just a sinking of the hand into that space to create a little more opening or spaciousness at the hip joint. Again, we're trying to keep the foot flat, try not to let it come up. So you can tell from that that we really don't want to apply much pressure, because if you apply a lot of pressure, your foot's just going to fly up and you're not going to be able to keep it flat. So that gives you an indication of exactly the amount of gentle press we're using here to create space. So 2 more big breaths here. Wonderful. And then release the gentle press of the hands. Let the knee naturally fall inward toward you, and maybe even just hold it wherever it naturally falls into. Wherever it falls, just hold it there. A couple of breaths. Now your foot doesn't need to be flat. If it is, it's okay. But if it's not, that's fine too here. And then lift that foot up and then slowly slide that foot alongside the left and bring your right knee over top the left. Wherever it feels comfortable, take your right arm out to the side into a half T. Left hand is going to rest anywhere along the outside of that right thigh. Nice spinal twist here over to the left side. Breathe a couple of big breaths. Breathe your intention perhaps into your body, wherever it might be calling for it. Wonderful. Releasing the left hand. Let's bring that right knee up, followed by the left. Let's bring both knees in, flatten out that back, and bring it back down. Let's do the other side. So the feet are in line with the knees and the hips. We're going to bring that left knee in, hug it in, lift the right toes, and just find the 4 corners or those tripod points, and then bring the toes back down. Make the right foot your anchor. Then lift the left foot. Make that footprint. So activating the left leg, engaging the muscles of the left leg as you press up through the tripod points, make that footprint. And once you do that, then we also actively press down through the left hip. So you've got these kind of opposing forces through that left leg. And in the meantime, making sure that you feel not the stretch there at the back of the knee, but that you're not pressing into the knee crease. So this is where just holding that knee gently can help make sure that you don't press into the knee crease, that instead we're pushing up through the foot and down through the hip. A couple more breaths here. You're going to feel that engagement. You might even feel your legs shaking a little bit, and that's okay. Beautiful. Now relax the leg. So we're still holding it up, but it's relaxed now instead. And we're going to, in this relaxed state, we're going to just give our knee some love. We're going to gently do some rotations on the front and back side, and then to either of the sides of the knee. Wonderful. Breathing some love into the knee, the left knee. And then we're going to bend that knee and bring the left foot onto the right thigh into our figure 4. A little wobble here, a little fanning of that knee a few times. And then if you don't have a support all the way already over on your right, go ahead and bring it there. And we're going to take that formation, that leg formation to the right. Adjust your support so that you can plant your left foot flat now on your support. Once it's there, your right hand comes above the knee onto the thigh area, the inner thigh, and gently. So again, if I press a lot, my foot's going to come up, and I want to try to keep it flat. So again, it just indicates to you how much gentle press you want to have here against the inside of that left thigh, just to create a little more space, but trying to stay anchored through the left foot. And then once you have that, we'll take the heel of the left hand and we'll kind of slide it right into the hip crease there. It's going to be kind of on the outside. You don't have to go right inside. It's going to be more on the outside. And then just, again, gentle press. Nothing forceful or aggressive, but just let the weight of the hand sink in there. And you'll feel as if you're creating a little more space at the left hip crease. And now notice if you're engaging or tightening or tensing anywhere else on the body, like maybe that right leg, which really is just relaxed against the block, or maybe the jaw, or maybe the shoulders. So see if you can minimize any extra effort that is unnecessary. 2 more breaths here as we hold this formation. Arms working a little bit here to just gently press. And then with that next breath, just gently release the hands and let that knee fall inward wherever it wants to go. So allowing it to just naturally fall inward. Take the left arm out maybe, and just allow that knee to be where it is. Breathe into it. A couple of breaths. And then lifting the left foot up, let's slide the left foot along the right to bring the left knee over top the right into a spinal twist. And you can even adjust your legs here, adjust your cushion or your block if you need to as we come into spinal twist. And the right hand is now going to rest somewhere on top of that left thigh. Breathing into it. And I didn't suggest this last time, but you could turn your head to look at your left hand if you wanted to. Or you might even turn your head to look to the other side if you wanted to. You could explore some movement in the neck or a different position for the neck if you would like. Or you could just look straight up. 1 more breath here in our spinal twist. And then gently bringing one knee up, followed by the other. Both feet come up. 1 more time. Knees come in, flatten out that back. And then bring those feet back. Take a moment. Let's do a full body stretch. Let's give the legs an opposite feel or an opposing feel, especially to those hip joints. Stretching completely. And then coming back up with those feet. So we are now again going to reach for our tennis ball. Mine rolled away a little bit. And we're going to use the tennis ball now to actually do some fascial release. So releasing some of our connective tissue and muscle tissue in the gluteal muscles, which can get really tight. Especially when doing a lot of sitting, I find that my gluteus medius, the gluteal muscle that's more along the outer side of my glutes, actually gets really tight. So we're going to work with that a little bit, and we're also going to try to release the piriformis, which is one of the deepest gluteal muscles. So we're going to start off, and actually we're going to start with the left glute, and we're going to take the right leg out of the equation. So my block is already in position, but I'm going to just place my right leg over to the side on that right block, on the block or cushion or whatever you're using. So just relax it however it feels good to you over on the right side, just kind of taking it out of the equation. Then I'm going to take my left leg over so that I create a little space to put my ball. And where I want to put my ball is if I find my pelvic rim here, the top of my pelvis, and follow it back, I will find the edge, the top edge of my sacrum. And the ball is going to go right outside of that top edge of my sacrum. And then I'm going to bring that knee back. The left knee comes back. And then I'm going to play with it because I might have to adjust the ball a little bit up or down. You don't want it to be on the sacrum. You don't want it on the bone. You want it on the muscle, the gluteal muscle. So right at the upper edge of the sacrum on the muscle itself. And you might feel a little tenderness there, perhaps. That can be the case. It often is. But once you have it there and you found a spot, then we're just going to let the weight of the leg kind of sink into the ball. And if it's a real ouchy spot, then I would suggest adjust it so that you're a little bit off that ouchy spot. So we don't want to be in pain. It might feel a little tender, and that's okay, but we should be able to breathe through it. So find the place where you want to work with this, and it shouldn't slide out, but if you think it will, you can just place your hand there to make sure the ball doesn't slide out. So once you have that position, we're going to then start moving that left knee out and back up. So we're just going to do this little kind of gentle rocking movement with the left knee, and you can feel that nice massaging effect along that spot, allowing ourselves to go a little deeper by doing this movement. And then we could go a little bit further by bringing the right knee up and also moving the right leg over with the left, and that adds a little more force or a little more pressure. And if that's too much, you don't have to. So you can keep the right knee off to the side if it's too much. And then if we want to go even a little deeper, we could actually just rest the knees over to the left as far as they feel comfortable, and then that gives even more force or pressure into the tennis ball at that spot where we're trying to release some of the tissue congestion, the muscle tissue, the fascial tissue, connective tissue, right at the outer edge of the sacrum there. One more big breath. And then bring both knees up. Take them over to the right so you can take the ball out. And we're going to take the ball out a little bit further out. So you're going to actually hold the ball there because it's going to be further out and it might actually squeeze out or roll out if you don't hold it. And bring your left knee over to the left and just feel for it. What you want the positioning to be is there's a big kind of bony protuberance here. That's your greater trochanter at the top of your femur bone. And we want it to be to the inside of that bony kind of landmark there. So when you turn your left knee off to the left, make sure the tennis ball is to the inside of that bony landmark, your greater trochanter. And that is often, I can feel the tenderness there. That is often tender. So again, you might want to reposition the ball a little bit to the, inside or outside or up or down, so it's not in a really delicate place where it might be a little uncomfortable or tender, but enough that not so much that it's ouchy, not so much that it's painful. And then we're just going to rest. We're going to rest that leg there into that outer place. And in this case, your right leg could be resting on the block or it could just be straight, whatever you want to do with that. Take a moment to just let it settle. And then you could go a little deeper by adding movement with your right leg. So the left leg stays settled, but the movement of your right leg as it moves toward the left will go a little deeper into that spot. So we're just gently and slowly moving that if you want to add a little more pressure. And then if you want to go even further, you could just rest that right knee over to the left like we did last time, and then you'll really bump up the intensity a little bit more. Once again, we don't want it to be painful. So as things open and release for us, as the tissue relaxes, then you can go a little deeper, but not before it's ready. We never force it. One more big breath here. And then slowly bring the knees up. Take them over to the right to take the tennis ball out. And then let's just take the legs straight and just relax those legs here. And just take a moment to see what you feel. Just check in and notice any differences. You may notice the difference between the left and the right because we release the gluteal muscles on the left and we haven't done the right yet. So just observe the body. One more breath. And then slowly we'll bring those feet up and let's do the whole sequence on the other side. So now bringing that block to the other side or your cushion, if you don't already have one there, let's rest the left leg and just take it out of the equation. Make it comfortable. And then taking the right knee over, we're going to find that first spot, which if you remember, we're going to follow the pelvic rim to the sacrum, and we're going to go just to the outer upper edge of the sacrum there, and making sure we're on the gluteal muscle, not on the bone. And then the knee comes up, and we're just going to hold it there first. Take a moment, take a few breaths just to let the weight settle into the ball there. If it's too ouchy, then you're going to move the ball a little bit so that it's not quite as painful or uncomfortable. And then we will begin our little undulating movement with that right leg. So nice and slow and steady. Breathing into that space where you feel the sensation in your right glute. So after we do this a few times, that might soften up enough for us where maybe then we can actually take that right knee over to the right and hold it there and bring that left knee up. And we might even decide that we prefer movement, so we might move both knees. So you have a lot of options here depending on what feels best for you. So I'm giving you some options, I'm giving you some guidance, but really this is about you exploring your own body and seeing what feels good. So for some people, it may not feel good just to rest into it. That might be too much. And so the movement is an easier kind of way to apply the pressure without it being too tender or feeling too tender. For some, it may feel better to just rest the weight into it. Now for me, this right side is much more tender. So whereas on the left side, I allowed both of my knees to go over to the right or to go over to the side in order to apply that extra pressure. With this side, I actually might even take my left knee back and release some of that extra pressure and only let my right knee fall over to the side. So explore what feels good to you. And again, honor the sensation, honor the body and what it's telling you. Never force. As things open up, as that fascia unwinds and unravels, and it does so very gradually. It can't be forced. We have to be patient with it. But as that happens, and as the tissue softens, then you can go a little further. And you can explore what will take you to that next place of resistance. So wherever you are with this, let's just take another breath or two to finish up. And then on the inhale, ease the right knee up if you had it over to the side, and then make it or move it over to the left so that we can move that ball out. And we're going to find again that greater trochanter on the right side. So wherever that bony landmark is, and then once you find that, we're going to ease. The left knee comes up, right knee goes off to the right, and you might have to reposition the ball depending on, again, the tenderness level. Finding just that sweet spot where you can feel it, but it's not too much, and we can just let your body weight settle. So now we let the weight, once you find your sweet spot, let the weight of that right leg settle into it. And again, now you explore. Once that eases up for you, maybe you add a little more by adding movement of that left leg, gentle undulating movement side to side. Maybe you add more by letting that left leg go over to the right side into kind of more of a spinal twist, adding more pressure. Or maybe you actually reposition the ball and go to a spot that before was too much, but maybe now you'll be able to access it. So we'll spend another handful of breaths here wherever you want to be with this, releasing the tissue of the gluteal muscles there. And so we're accessing gluteus medius, we're accessing attachment points of gluteus maximus as well, and piriformis. So we're accessing quite a bit here with a couple of these points that we're doing today. Beautiful. So whatever you're deciding to do, we're going to take 2 more breaths here to finish up. And then gently lift that right knee up. Both knees go over the left so you can take the ball out from underneath. And straighten out those legs. Relax the body for a moment and just again, see what you notice, feel what you feel. Perhaps and hopefully the legs feel a little more balanced, the hips feel a little more balanced. We'll take 1 more big breath here. And then slowly bring those feet up. Once again, feet come up. Recenter, reposition if you need to. And let's just do a little pelvic rocking here, just to bring a little movement to the pelvis in this more of a flexion extension kind of rocking instead of twisting. Just flow with your breath. Find a nice, smooth, undulating movement here. Smooth and steady. Wonderful. And then the next time you press your navel down, flatten the back, bring your knees in. Let's hug those knees in as tightly as we can to the body. Again, without forcing, flattening up into the mid-back a little bit as you do this here. Keep breathing though, don't hold your breath. Wonderful. And then slowly turn to one side and ease yourself upright. So come upright. Let's bring those feet together and let's just give those knees a little butterfly flutter once we come upright. Gentle flutter. Wonderful. We're going to do one more thing to release our hips today, and that is coming into a therapeutic pigeon pose. So a supported therapeutic pigeon pose, and for this we're going to need the blanket or towel that you have, and we're going to roll it up nice and tight. So I have here a blanket, I have towels over there, I could use that as well. So again, whatever you have. And actually, once you roll it up, just kind of place it to the side to start. So have that ready to go. And you may want to have perhaps a towel or a cushion at the top of your mat for your head as well, or a block for once we get into our pigeon pose. But we're going to start off once your accessories are in place in our table. So get grounded through those hands, knees under the hips, and just take a moment at table. Let's just do a few cat-cows here before we go into pigeon. So just breathing with this cat-cow, inhaling crown and tail up, dropping the belly down. Exhaling, navel rises up, the head and the tail go down. Inhaling, tail and crown go up. Exhaling, tail and crown go down. Just a couple more. And then come back to your table pose. And let's bring the right knee forward by the right hand. And as you do that, your left leg is going to straighten back behind you a little bit. And then the right foot will come forward. So we're on our right shin bone, basically. And maintain the space there between your legs, because now we're going to grab that towel or blanket that you rolled up and place it right in between both thighs there, so that we can settle our hips right onto. So the front of my left thigh is on top of the blanket, and the back of my right thigh or my glute is on the blanket. And if you feel like this is not comfortable and you're not able to settle your weight into your rolled blanket, you may just need a little more height. So gently come out of this, grab maybe another towel, roll it up on top, and give yourself a little more height perhaps. But you should be able to find a height where you can just settle into this shape, this precursor to our pigeon, our therapeutic pigeon that we're going to do. So you can have your right leg bent more or less. If you want a little more intensity or stretch into that right glute, you could have your right leg further up. But again, that may or may not work for you. So you decide the angle of that right knee. Maybe it may not even work for your knee. So you have to also pay attention to the knee as well as the hip and the glute. So find the position that works for you and really just settle your weight into the floor, into the support. And once you feel like you've settled, now we're going to come onto our forearms. And even if you are familiar with pigeon and you go down deeper and you're able to, I invite you to just stop at your forearms first. And just take a moment to notice Notice if you're able to just really fully settle the weight of your lower body into the floor and into the blanket or the support. Notice if you're resisting or if there's a lot of effort going on in that front leg in order to keep the leg in its shape. And if it is, maybe back off. Maybe take that foot closer to your body rather than having it more forward. So the name of the game here is to really release the effort, especially through the legs and the lower body, because we want to allow for the shape to do the work as we hold this shape and we allow the connective tissue unwind and unravel. So basically it's very yin-like. If you're familiar with yin yoga and yin poses, our therapeutic pose here is very much like a yin pose. So once we've settled onto our forearms for a little bit, let's interlace our fingers. Thumbs are nice and long, and that flatness of our thumbs rests right at the third eye. So make sure your elbows are situated in a way that's comfortable for your shoulders, and just settle the weight of your head now into your thumbs, into your fists. A couple of nice big breaths here. Neck feeling relaxed. Bringing awareness wherever it makes sense to you. Maybe your awareness goes into that right hip, right gluteal region again. Maybe your awareness goes to your third eye as it rests against your fists. Taking nice big full breaths. Now you may choose to stay right here in this formation, or you might go a little bit lower, and maybe this is where you grab a block or a cushion or a pillow and bring that under your forehead. Or maybe you go all the way down and just bring your hands under your head. Or maybe you bring your head all the way to the floor. See what feels best for you here. And we'll hold this shape, this pigeon pose, for a couple minutes. Very yin-like. And as we hold this, I invite you to breathe your intention into the body wherever you may see fit to do so, wherever your body calls for it. Breathe into the sensation. And I also invite you to perhaps add some imagery. So as you breathe your intention into the body, what kind of imagery corresponds to that? Are there certain colors that you can imagine breathing into your body, into the sensation to help with your intention? Or is there some other kind of specific imagery that would help you cause or create your intention within your body? If at any point you get uncomfortable and your body decides this isn't where you want to be, you can adjust. But notice if you're adjusting because you want to give yourself a break from the discomfort, or if your body is really asking for the adjustment. So part of the practice of a yin pose or a therapeutic pose is that we breathe through our discomfort, and we are able to discern whether the body is speaking to us and requesting a shift or a change because it really needs it, or if it's really more the mind saying, I don't like this. I don't like this discomfort. I'd rather be more comfortable. So see if you can make that distinction if you notice that happening within your body. Because it's actually beneficial, it's actually therapeutic to breathe through a certain level of discomfort so that we can build our resilience we can build our capacity to manage and breathe through our discomfort, not only on the mat, but also off the mat in the world. Take about 3 more breaths here on this side. And with that next breath, position your hands near your shoulders so that you can gently press back up, nice and slow, making your movements very slow, very intentional. And then once you're all the way up, curl the back toes, and again, very slowly lift those hips up. Gently take the support out. And bring your right knee under your right hip, left knee under your left hip. Take that right leg back and gently bring your toes into the floor. Stretch out that right leg. Let's do a little toggling, undulating movement here, forward and back, just to bring some flow to that right leg that was bent for quite some time. Wonderful. And let's come back into our table pose, and we'll do the other side, of course. So left knee comes forward, right leg will go back, left foot comes forward, and before we actually take our position, we will bring, our blanket, our support, whatever we're using underneath. And now maybe this side needs something different, so pay attention to whether this is enough or whether you need more or less on this side for this hip. And whatever position you want to have with this left shin that feels good to you, where you're able to just settle the weight down into that support, into the floor. So take a moment here, take a few breaths, let it go. Notice any need to adjust. And when you feel like your lower body is settled, now let's take it down to the forearms. And again, we're going to pause here. We'll make a fist, big fist with both hands, flat thumbs, and rest your head into your hands there at the third eye, and just settle into this shape here. Elbows gently pressing down so we're not hunched. Notice if your head is kind of sinking into your shoulders. So we want to gently press. We're using the arms a little bit here. Press the elbows into the floor gently. Rest your head into your hands. Shoulders away from ears. And the lower body is completely neutral. So just lower body settles into the floor, into the support. No resistance, no engagement through that lower body. So after we take a few breaths here, if you feel like you want to go further, by all means, go ahead. Allow yourself to go further down, supporting the head wherever you decide to be, though. So I do encourage that you support that head and not just let it hang. Continuing to let the hips and the legs sink into the support. Breathing. So as we hold this side now, again for a couple minutes, I invite you to find your breath, breathe your intention into the body, and again, perhaps work with some imagery. It can be very powerful to visualize your intention within your body. So, for example, if your intention is of ease, visualize ease wherever the body may be calling for it. If your intention is creating space or expansion, visualize that. Use whatever imagery makes sense to you to create that within your body. And again, notice the tendency to want to back off due to the unwillingness to work through your discomfort. And distinguishing that from having gone too far and the body needing to actually back off. And we'll take about 3 more breaths here on this side. And with that next in-breath, very gently and slowly, consciously moving. Choosing to move super slow as you ease your upper body upright. Curl the right toes under to help lift your left hip. And we can move the support out and away. Left knee under left hip, right knee under right hip in our table. Extend that left leg, gently press down through the left toes. Hands might come forward a little bit so that you can more easily and comfortably do that rocking flow, creating some movement for that left leg now. Wonderful. And let's bring that left knee back underneath. Awesome. So let's do one more thing. Before we come back to the floor, let's come up onto our knees, upright hips. Let's do a supported camel. So supporting the pelvic rim back here with your hands. And the top of the pelvis will tilt back slightly to create space at the sacrum. Lift up through the heart center and then gently take it back to as far as you feel comfortable. Find the arc that works for you. The hips stay over the knees. You're grounded through the knees, the tops of the feet. And we're finding space at the front of the thighs, front of the hips. The head might follow the shoulders back, or maybe if it's too much weight, you just tuck your chin under instead, or tuck your chin forward instead. 2 more breaths here in our supported camel. And then the chin will come forward first, then the shoulders, and then back to upright hips. And maybe we shake out those arms, roll those shoulders a little bit. And we're going to come back to the floor, and we're going to come into a crocodile pose. So as you come lying on your belly, let's bring hand to opposite elbow and rest your forehead on your top forearm if that feels good. If that doesn't feel comfortable, you can also just put one hand on top of the other and rest your forehead on the top hand. We're going to splay the legs, toes point out, so it's just kind of gently rock or undulate through the hips here to settle the front of the hips, the front of the pelvis against the floor, and then just let it go. You may even rock those heels a little bit to shake it out through the legs. And then we're just going to settle here in our crocodile pose, taking a few nice big breaths. And just feel what you feel. Notice the sensations through the lower body. Notice how your hips feel. Notice how your glutes feel. One more time, breathing your intention throughout your body, wherever it may be calling for that intention. Enjoying this shape, enjoying what it offers you, the stillness, the quiet.
the sensation of your breathing. The connection to the earth, the floor, the connection to your breath. Taking one more breath here. As you breathe in next time, gently bend your knees, bring those feet up towards the sky, and then just kind of side to side. A little windshield wiper type movement. And then releasing those feet back down, and then extending your arm, whatever arm, one arm, and the other hand kind of helps you roll over. So it doesn't matter which side you do that with, but just slowly rolling onto your back once again. If you'd like to hug your knees one last time, go right ahead to do so. To flatten out your back. And then ease into your Shavasana. So maybe you bring that blanket you were using under your knees. Maybe you bring a blanket under your head. Relaxing those arms to the side and just letting go. And we'll just take a brief Shavasana here just so that we can check in. Check in with those hips. Check in with the thighs, the lower back, that entire region. All the muscle groups that attach at the hips. And I invite you to really allow your body weight to sink. The weight of your hips to sink into the mat. The weight of your heels to sink into the mat as you fully disengage all effort, all resistance, letting it go. Feel the weight of your shoulder blades and your arms, your hands, the backs of your hands sinking into the mat. And feel the weight of your head sinking into the mat, into the floor. Feel your body. Feel your breath. Can you feel your energy flowing through your body, flowing with your breath? Let's take one big breath in, and on the exhale, sigh out, sound out, let it all go. Wonderful. And then begin making some gentle movement. Fingers, toes, maybe you turn your head side to side, maybe you roll your wrists and your ankles. Eventually your feet will come up slowly, and maybe one more time you'll flatten out your back in some way, whichever way feels best to you. And when you're ready, rolling to whichever side you'd like to roll to. You could even pause here for a breath or two in that fetal position on your side. And whenever you're ready to come up, take your time to ease back upright into a comfortable seat. Bringing hands to the heart space, Bowing your head to your own heart and to yourself for practicing today, for working to release your hips in a gentle, nurturing, healing way. Namaste. I hope you enjoyed the hip releasing practice. I hope you feel it through your hips. A little more ease, a little more spaciousness. And until next time, I look forward to our next practice. Be well.